My influencer girlfriend posted, "Finally manifested my dream car." It was my hand-restored Airstream I spent 13 months building. I just sent the police my 400 GB file of receipts and time-lapse videos. Her live-streamed brand launch party went viral. My girlfriend posted a picture on Instagram leaning against my hand-restored 1972 Airstream trailer. Her caption read, "Finally manifested my dream into reality. Ladies always know your worth. Hashtag Airstream Life. Hashtag Boss Babe." I didn't panic. I didn't call her. I just looked at the photo at the polished aluminum I had spent a year sanding at the custom-built oak door I had hung myself, and I whispered to the empty room, "That's my trailer." Then I calmly opened my filing cabinet. I'm 32 years old. I'm a craftsman. I don't build brands or chase clout. I build things that last, things you can touch. For the past 13 months, my entire world had been a 1972 Airstream Sovereign. I found it rusting in a field, paid $2,000 for the carcass, and towed it back to my workshop. To everyone else, it was junk. To me, it was a masterpiece waiting to be uncovered. I spent hundreds of hours on it. I stripped it down to the bare aluminum ribs, rewired every inch, laid new subflooring, and polished the dull metal shell until it shone like a mirror. The inside was my sanctuary. I milled every piece of black walnut for the cabinetry myself. I built a fold-down desk from a single slab of maple. I even learned basic metalworking to fabricate custom brass fittings because the plastic ones you could buy online felt cheap, soulless. That trailer wasn't a vehicle. It was my journal written in sawdust and sweat. It was the culmination of every skill my grandfather had ever taught me. I had been with Chloe for 2 years. She was different. Where I found peace in the quiet hum of a table, saw she found energy in the constant scroll of a social media feed. She was 28, an aspiring life coach, and she spoke in a language of hashtags and affirmations. She didn't see the world, she saw content. When she'd visit my workshop, she wouldn't look at the grain of the wood or the precision of a dovetail joint. She'd pull out her phone and say, "Oh my God, babe, this lighting is amazing. The aesthetic is so authentic." Authentic. That was her favorite word. She'd apply it to everything from her morning coffee to my life's work, without understanding what it actually meant. I thought it was just a generational gap, a different way of seeing things. I thought it was charming. I was a fool. The red flags were there, of course. They always are. Looking back, they're not just flags. They're giant flashing neon signs. There was the time about 6 months ago, she was making a vision board for her brand. She cut out a picture of a brand new Airstream and glued it in the center. I pointed to my half-finished project in the garage and said, "You know we'll have the real thing soon." She'd smiled, that placating smile she used when she thought I was being naive. "Yeah, babe, your little project is cute, but I'm talking about a brand, an empire. My little project. The thousands of dollars and countless hours of my life reduced to a cute little project." Then there was the dinner with her friends. All of them were like her, aspiring influencers, crypto evangelists, people who listed CEO of my own life in their bios. One of them asked about the Airstream. I started explaining the challenge of retrofitting the plumbing system. I was proud of how I'd solved it. Before I could finish, Chloe cut in. "It's going to be the perfect backdrop for my content, a totally retro chic vibe. I'm already in talks with an organic kombucha brand for a collab once it's done." She wasn't just my girlfriend. She was my brand manager, and I was an unpaid, uncredited vendor. The final fatal mistake was mine. 2 weeks ago, she came to me with a proposal. She was planning her official brand launch party. Babe, she'd set her eyes wide and earnest. "I need the Airstream, just for the launch. It's the entire theme of my brand, freedom, authenticity, living your dream." I hesitated. "It's not quite done, Chloe. The gas lines for the stove still need to be leak tested, and I haven't finished the final coat on the floors." She waved her hand dismissively. "We don't need the stove. It's just for looks." "Please, Ethan. This is everything. This isn't just for me. It's for us. Once my brand takes off, we can travel anywhere. This is our launch pad. Our launch pad, not our home, not our escape. A launchpad. Against every screaming instinct in my gut, I said yes. I loved her, and I wanted to support her dream even if I didn't quite understand it. She hugged me, telling me I was the most supportive boyfriend in the world. She picked up the keys the following Monday. She said she needed to get it professionally detailed and staged for the party. I didn't see my Airstream again until it appeared on her Instagram feed 4 days later, claimed as her own, manifested from the ether by the sheer force of her own self-importance. And I realized she hadn't just stolen my trailer. She had stolen 13 months of my life, my labor, and my trust, and put a hashtag on it. My first instinct wasn't rage. It was a strange, cold clarity. The kind a surgeon must feel before the first incision. The chaos of emotion, the betrayal, the anger, the sheer dumbfounded heartbreak, it was all there, a white-hot furnace roaring deep inside me. But my mind, the part of me that measures twice and cuts once, that understands process and order, simply walled it off. I could feel the heat behind the glass, but it couldn't touch me. All I could feel was the quiet, steady hum of purpose. I didn't throw my phone. I didn't punch a wall. I didn't even scream her name. My body was moving before I even consciously told it to. It was as if 13 months of meticulous labor had trained me for this exact moment. A problem had presented itself, a complex, ugly problem, and my job was to break it down into its component parts and solve it. I stood up from my desk and walked to my workshop. Not the house we shared. That place was contaminated now, every room filled with the ghost of a shared future that had turned out to be a lie. The workshop was my space, sacred. The air smelled of cedar and steel, of honest work. This was a place where things were made real, not just manifested. I walked to the back corner, to the heavy fireproof filing cabinet bolted to the concrete floor. Chloe had always laughed at it, calling it my paranoid old man cabinet. She thought I kept boring tax documents in there. She was wrong. With a turn of a key, the heavy drawers slid open with a satisfying metallic groan. My hands didn't shake. My movements were deliberate, efficient. I was a craftsman at work. First, I pulled out the original bill of sale from 2 years ago. The paper was worn at the creases, a greasy thumbprint from the old farmer I'd bought the Airstream from, still visible in the corner. For one 1972 Airstream Sovereign shell, sold as is for $2,000. My name, Ethan Miller, was on the buyer line. My signature clear and distinct. That was the seed. Next, I pulled out the binder. It was 3 inches thick, overflowing with invoices I had organized by date and supplier. I flipped through the pages, the rustle of paper, a counterpoint to the silence in the shop. An invoice from Vintage Trailer Supply for a new axle assembly, $3,000. A receipt from a specialty lumberyard for $700 worth of quarter-sawn black walnut. An order confirmation for a custom-milled copper countertop. Page after page, a paper trail of my investment. Over $60,000 in materials, all meticulously documented, all paid for from my business account. Her name was nowhere, not on a single line item. This was the structure. Then I unlocked my work computer and plugged in the external hard drive labeled Project Sovereign. My digital fortress. Terabytes of data. Over 400 gigabytes of photos and time-lapse videos organized into 58 subfolders, one for each week of the project. I clicked open a folder from the beginning. There I was in April of last year, wearing a respirator, grinding away rust, my face covered in grime. I clicked on another. There I was in August, painstakingly routing the channels for the new electrical wiring, a web of colored copper that I alone understood. I clicked on a time-lapse from December. A 3-day process of installing the walnut cabinets, the ones I had spent 100 hours building, condensed into 2 minutes of fluid motion. Me covered in sawdust, exhausted but smiling at the camera after the final piece slid into place. A visual diary of my dedication. But the real proof, the keystone, the piece of evidence she could never ever explain away, was in a video file dated May 10th of this year, our 2nd anniversary. It was a close-up shot of the main oak floor beam, the spine of the entire trailer resting on my workbench before I installed it. I remembered that night. Chloe had canceled our dinner plans for a networking call. I'd stayed in the shop feeling a little lonely and decided to do something for us. The video shows my carving tool, the one my grandfather gave me, cutting into the wood, the shavings curling away with each precise movement. First an E, then a plus sign, then a C, and underneath the date of our first anniversary. E plus C forever. I'd meant for it to be a secret I would show her on our first cross-country trip. A hidden testament to the foundation I thought we were building together. A symbol of permanence carved into the very heart of my creation. The irony was so thick I could taste it. The symbol of my commitment was about to become the instrument of her downfall. I saved a copy of the video to a separate flash drive. I compiled the bill of sale, the key invoices, and a dozen high-resolution photos of the restoration into a single neat digital folder. I titled it, Theft of Property, Airstream Sovereign. Only then, with my case built with every fact triple-checked, did I finally pick up my phone. I didn't call her. I didn't text her friends. I was done with their world of drama and emotion. I needed logic and consequences. I called the non-emergency police line. I was still in my workshop, the smell of wood around me, the solid weight of my tools nearby. My voice was steady when the operator answered. "Hello," I said calmly. "I need to report a case of grand theft auto." There was a pause. "Okay, sir, what is the make and model of the vehicle?" "It's a vintage 1972 Airstream Sovereign trailer." "And when was it stolen?" The physical property was taken 4 days ago. The ownership was fraudulently transferred yesterday via forged documents." The operator was silent for a beat. I could hear the skepticism in the silence. "Sir, can you explain what you mean by fraudulently transferred?" I said, looking at the folder on my screen. "I know this is unusual, which is why I've prepared a comprehensive file. I have the original bill of sale in my name. I have over $60,000 in receipts for materials in my name. I have a complete photographic and video record of the 13-month restoration process, which I performed myself. And I have proof of multiple unique permanent markings on the vehicle that only I could have made. The suspect is currently broadcasting her location with the stolen property on social media." Another pause, this one shorter. "And the suspect's name, sir?" I took a breath. This was the final cut. The point of no return. "Her name is Chloe Winters." "Yes," I added before she could ask. "She's my girlfriend." While my world had narrowed to the quiet, methodical assembly of a legal case, Chloe's world exploded into a non-stop 24/7 reality show. And she was the star. Her stage was my Airstream, and her audience was the thousands of followers who hung on her every vapid word. I didn't have to look for evidence of her delusion. She broadcast it willingly. The first Instagram story she posted from inside the trailer was a masterclass in entitlement. It was a video of her hair in a messy bun, wearing expensive yoga pants, walking through the space with a smoking bundle of sage. "Okay, guys, first things first," she said to her phone, her voice hushed and spiritual. "Whenever you step into a new space, a new chapter of your life, you have to cleanse it. You have to clear out all the old stagnant energy that no longer serves your highest self." She waved the smoke over the walnut cabinets I had built, over the copper countertop I had installed, over the leather bench I had upholstered with my own 2 hands. The irony was breathtaking. She was cleansing my energy from the trailer I built, narrating it as a profound act of self-care. It was like watching a burglar redecorate the house he just broke into. Then came the redecorating posts. She posted a picture of the sleeping area where my simple gray wool blanket had been replaced by a mountain of pastel pink and faux fur pillows. The caption read, "Making this space my own." It was so masculine before. Now it feels like a goddess sanctuary. She posted a time-lapse video of her applying cheap, glittery contact paper to the custom-built maple desk. The desk I had spent a week on, sanding it to a perfect glass-smooth finish and sealing it with 6 coats of hand-rubbed oil. She covered my work with pink marble contact paper, the kind you buy on Amazon for $10 a roll. 100 hours of labor erased for a photo op. Each post was a small, sharp stab. Each hashtag was another grain of salt in the wound. She wasn't just using my trailer, She was systematically erasing me from it, painting over my work with her cheap, disposable version of authenticity. For 3 days, I said nothing. I watched her stories, screenshotted every post, and forwarded them to a folder I shared with Detective Raymond. He had told me not to engage, to let her build my case for me. And she was doing a spectacular job. On the 4th day of my silence, she finally sent a text. I was in my workshop sharpening a chisel when my phone buzzed. It was from her. I expected an angry message, a confused question. Instead, I got this. Hey babe, I know you're probably busy and need your space to process things. I get it. But I just wanted you to know that what I'm building here, it's not just for me. I'm building a future for us. This is our dream, and I'm just the one brave enough to make it happen. Can't wait for you to see it. XO. She thought this was a misunderstanding. She thought I was just in a mood, that I was sulking in my workshop, while she, the brave visionary, was out conquering the world for the both of us. The level of self-delusion was almost impressive. I didn't reply. I just took a screenshot, attached it to an email with the subject line, "For the file," and sent it to the detective. The grand finale of her performance came that evening. Her best friend, Kelsey, the one who lived with her phone permanently attached to her hand, posted a video. It was a mock interview with Chloe filmed inside the Airstream. Kelsey was behind the camera. So Chloe, just tell us, how does it feel to be a homeowner at 28, to have built all this yourself? Chloe sitting on the bench I built, surrounded by the pillows she bought with the money she didn't spend on rent, put her hand on her heart, and looked at the camera with a perfectly rehearsed expression of humble gratitude. Yeah, honestly, Kelsey, she said, her voice thick with fake emotion. It's just proof. Proof that if you put your intentions out into the universe, if you work hard and never let anyone tell you that your dreams are too big, anything is possible. You're such an inspiration, Kelsey breathed. I watched the video 3 times, not because I was hurt anymore, but because I was studying my opponent. I realized she genuinely believed it. In the echo chamber of her own making, surrounded by sycophants like Kelsey, she had crafted a narrative where she was the hero, the self-made woman. She wasn't just stealing a physical object. She was attempting to steal my entire narrative, erasing my name from the pages of my own story and writing hers in its place. But she'd made a mistake. She thought she was writing in permanent ink. All she had was a pencil, and I was coming with the eraser. I wasn't at the party. My only invitation was the public link to the live stream that Kelsey had posted in her Instagram bio. So I sat in the quiet of my workshop, a cold beer sweating in my hand, and watched the whole pathetic spectacle unfold on my laptop screen. It was exactly as tacky as I'd imagined. Fairy lights were strung haphazardly around the Airstream, casting a cheap glow on a crowd of about 30 people. They all looked the same trendy clothes, the same vacant smiles, the same way they held their phones up to record everything, proving they were there. The music was a generic thumping bass line that vibrated through my laptop's speakers. It looked less like a party and more like a commercial for a lifestyle that didn't actually exist. And in the middle of it all was Chloe. She was the queen of this fabricated kingdom. She floated through the crowd in a white linen dress, a glass of champagne permanently attached to her hand, laughing a laugh that was a little too loud, hugging people she barely knew. Kelsey trailed her like a court videographer, her phone's camera capturing every curated moment of Chloe's triumph. I watched her pose for a selfie, one hand on her hip, the other holding up her glass, the Airstream gleaming behind her like a trophy she had won. My trophy. The live stream had over 1,000 viewers. The comments were scrolling by in a rapid-fire stream of fire emojis and "Yas, Queen." After about an hour of this performance, Chloe tapped on a microphone that was hooked up to a small speaker. The music faded. She stood in the doorway of the Airstream, the entrance I had so carefully framed with reclaimed barnwood, and beamed at her audience both in person and online. "Oh my God, you guys," she began, her voice breathy and emotional. "Thank you all so much for coming. To see all of you here celebrating with me. It's everything." She took a dramatic pause, looking out at the faces staring up at her. "A year ago," she continued, "I was stuck. I was in a place of low vibrational energy, I let other people's small-mindedness and lack of vision hold me back. I was listening to voices that told me to be practical, to be realistic. She was talking about me. I took a long sip of my beer. And then I made a choice, she said, her voice rising with passion. I chose to believe in myself. I chose to align with the universe. I chose to manifest the life I knew I deserved. And to anyone out there who has ever had someone tell them that their dream is just a cute little project. She let the words hang in the air, a smug little smirk playing on her lips. I'm here to tell you that you need to cut that negative energy out of your life. You need to protect your vibe. Because what you see here, this beautiful home, this incredible community, this is what happens when you dare to claim what is rightfully yours. The crowd of sycophants erupted in applause. She raised her glass high, her smile a beacon of pure, unadulterated hubris. To new beginnings, she yelled, and that's when the knock came. It wasn't a loud bang. It was a firm, authoritative rap, rap, rap on the aluminum door of the Airstream. It cut through the applause like a razor. The music had stopped. The crowd went quiet. Chloe's smile faltered. An expression of annoyance flashed across her face. She turned, expecting to see a latecomer to her party. She opened the door. Standing there were two police officers, their faces impassive, their presence sucking all the air out of the festive atmosphere. Kelsey, ever the documentarian, instinctively swung her phone's camera to capture the moment. Chloe's party hostess' smile was frozen on her face. Can I help you, officers? The older of the two, a man with a tired expression, spoke, his voice calm and clear. Are you Chloe Winters? I am, she said, an arrogant edge to her voice. This is a private party. Ma'am, the officer said, ignoring her statement. We have a report that this vehicle, this Airstream trailer, was stolen. A nervous titter went through the crowd. Chloe let out a sharp, condescending laugh. Stolen? That's ridiculous. This is my trailer. I bought it. I have the paperwork right inside. The officer nodded slowly, his eyes never leaving hers. We're aware of the paperwork you filed with the state, ma'am. That would be the felony forgery charge. The grand theft auto charge is for the trailer itself. The blood drained from her face. I watched on my laptop screen as the color physically left her. Her smug confidence, her entire boss babe persona, just evaporated under the harsh glare of reality. What? What are you talking about? She stammered. My boyfriend gave it to me. The owner, Ethan Miller, filed a report 4 days ago stating the vehicle was stolen via fraudulent documents. Ma'am, I need you to step out of the vehicle. No. She whispered, her voice barely audible. Then louder. No, this is a misunderstanding. It's it's mine. He's just bitter because I left him. Way to admit you knew who the real owner was, Chloe. You can explain your side of the story downtown. The officer said, his patience clearly gone. Step out of the trailer now. She didn't move. She just stood there, her face a mask of disbelief and dawning horror. The second officer stepped forward. The sound was unmistakable even through the tinny phone speaker. The sharp, metallic click of handcuffs. That's when she screamed. It wasn't a movie scream. It was a raw, guttural shriek of pure, cornered panic. A sound of a world ending. No, you can't do this to me. I haven't done anything wrong. The officers were professional. They took her by the arm and escorted her out of the Airstream. Kelsey's shaky camera followed them, the live stream capturing every humiliating second. The crowd of friends was frozen, some backing away, others staring with their mouths open. The final image on the live stream was Chloe in her white linen dress, being placed in the back of a police car, her face streaked with mascara. The party's soft fairy lights were replaced by the strobing clinical glare of red and blue. Then the screen went black. I turned off the live stream. The screen went black, but the images were burned into my mind. The flashing lights, her screaming face, the cold, hard click of the handcuffs. I sat there in the darkness of my workshop, the silence suddenly deafening. I took a long, slow breath. The furnace of rage inside me had finally burned out, leaving behind nothing but a quiet, clean emptiness. It was over, or so I thought. What happened in my workshop was the end of my emotional battle. What happened next in the world outside was the beginning of her public reckoning. The clip of her arrest captured on Kelsey's phone didn't just get posted, it went supernova. Someone had screen recorded the entire live stream. Within an hour, it was on Twitter. By morning, it was on TikTok, YouTube, and every corner of the internet that feasts on human folly. It became a phenomenon. Hashtag Airstream heist. Hashtag manifesting a felony. My personal favorite, hashtag karma is a boss babe. The internet, for all its chaos, has a surprisingly sharp sense of justice when the evidence is clear. The court of public opinion convened, and the verdict was swift, unanimous, and brutal. Her own comments section on the posts she hadn't yet deleted became a wasteland. The fire emojis were replaced with clown emojis. The Yas Queen comments were buried under an avalanche of ridicule. She manifested a felony charge. One comment with 3,000 likes read, "This is what happens when your entire personality is a hashtag," said another. I feel bad for the guy who actually built the trailer. Imagine pouring your heart into something, just for this parasite to steal it for a photo op. That one hit close to home. By the end of the day, the clip had been remixed. Someone set her arrogant speech to the theme from Curb Your Enthusiasm. Someone else turned her final guttural scream into a viral TikTok sound. She wasn't just a failed influencer anymore. She was a meme. A cautionary tale about entitlement served up in 15-second clips. The social fallout was one thing. The legal case was another. Detective Raymond called me the next morning. His voice was all business, but I could hear a hint of satisfaction in it. "Mr. Miller," he said, "we've processed the vehicle. It's exactly as you described." I asked him about the engraving. "Oh yeah," he said, and I could almost hear him smiling. Forensics took the floor panel up. Took them less than 5 minutes to find it. Carved right into the main support beam. E plus C forever. Pretty damning. That one small detail. That secret I had carved in a moment of love and optimism. It had become the cold, hard fact that unraveled her entire web of lies. You can forge a signature. You can try to lie your way out of a situation. You can't forge an oak beam that's been part of a structure for months. It made the case open and shut. Her lawyer, once he saw the evidence file, would have nothing to stand on. She hadn't just been caught. She had been checkmated. When the clip of her arrest hit 10 million views by the end of the weekend, I realized that justice in our time isn't just decided in a courtroom. It's often delivered first and more brutally by a different kind of jury. It's what I've come to think of as the court of screens. Initially, Chloe's stage was that party, a controlled environment, with 30 of her friends. In that room, she held the power. The guests were bound by social convention, by their relationship with her. They might have felt awkward, but they would have stayed silent, complicit. But the moment Kelsey's live stream went live, the venue changed. The case was moved to a higher court. The 30 people at the party could be influenced. But the millions watching online, they were an impartial jury. They had no loyalty to Chloe. They didn't care about her feelings or her brand. All they saw was the evidence presented, a smug, arrogant speech, followed by the arrival of the police, followed by a complete and total meltdown. The live stream wasn't just a recording of the event. It was the entire trial. Her speech was the prosecution's opening statement, laying out the sheer audacity of her entitlement. The officer's calm, factual statements were the key testimony. And her scream, that was her confessing on the stand. It made me realize a fundamental truth about the 21st century. Power has shifted. It no longer belongs exclusively to those with titles or inherited wealth. Power now also belongs to those who hold the receipts. To those who possess the screenshot, the screen recording, the undeniable digital proof. I had spent my life building things with my hands, believing that value came from wood and steel and honest effort. But in that moment, I understood that the most powerful tool I had in this fight wasn't a saw or a welder. It was a single 3-minute video file on a flash drive, copied and distributed 1,000,000 times over. A court of law would eventually decide her sentence, probation, a fine, maybe some jail time. But the court of screens had already delivered its verdict. It had sentenced her to a lifetime of digital infamy. A court can seal a record, but the internet never forgets. Her name, her face would now be permanently linked to this one deeply humiliating moment. She could delete her profile, change her name, move to another country. It wouldn't matter. Her digital ghost would follow her forever. That was her real punishment. And it was far more fitting than anything a judge could hand down. She had craved internet fame. The universe, in its infinite and brutal irony, had granted her wish. In the weeks that followed, our two worlds, which had once been so intertwined, split and veered off in opposite directions. Hers spiraled downward into a black hole of consequences, while mine unexpectedly began to open up to the light. Chloe's downfall was as public as her fabricated rise. The court process was a formality. Faced with the mountain of evidence, the forged documents, the text messages, Kelsey's sworn statement, and the irrefutable proof of my carving in the oak beam, she had no choice but to take a plea deal. Felony grand theft and felony forgery. The judge was lenient, sparing her a long prison sentence in favor of probation, a hefty fine, and community service. But the conviction itself was a life sentence of another kind. The word felon was now a permanent part of her story. Her friends, the ones who had cheered her on, scattered like roaches in the light. Kelsey, her loyal videographer and hype woman, was the first to go. She posted a long, tearful apology on her own social media, claiming she had been deeply manipulated by a toxic personality and was now on a healing journey of holding herself accountable. In reality, she was just a rat fleeing a sinking ship, desperately trying to save her own microbrand from the association. The others just went silent, deleting their old comments, pretending they were never there. Her incredible community had been as fake as her ownership of the trailer. Her career as a life coach was, of course, over. It turns out it's hard to sell people advice on how to live their best life when a 10-second Google search reveals your own life is a viral train wreck of deceit and crime. Her brand wasn't just dead. It was a punchline. Her parents had to pay her legal fees. She had to sell her car, the one she actually owned, to pay the court-ordered fines. With a felony record and no income, she couldn't get an apartment. Her so-called empire, built on a foundation of lies, had been reduced to a single room. Her childhood bedroom back in her parents' house. But while her world was turning to ash, something strange and unexpected was happening in mine. The story had gone viral, but as the initial shock wore off, the narrative began to shift. People stopped focusing on her and started paying attention to the Airstream itself. A popular blog that focused on craftsmanship and design wrote a piece about it. They didn't focus on the drama. They focused on the work. They posted my time-lapse videos. They ran close-up photos of the walnut cabinetry, the brass fittings, the hand-stitched leather. They called the trailer a stunning example of modern artisanship and a testament to the dying art of doing things the right way. Other sites picked it up. My little workshop, my quiet sanctuary, was suddenly flooded with emails, not from trolls or drama seekers, but from design magazines, architectural firms, and people from all over the country who wanted me to build something for them. My order book, which had always been steady, was now filled for the next 2 years. People didn't just want a custom table or a set of cabinets. They wanted a piece of that story. They wanted something real, something built with integrity, something with a soul. My worst moment had ironically become my best marketing campaign. About a month after the party, I got a call from Detective Raymond. The Airstream was being released from the evidence lot. It was time to bring it home. When I finally saw it, sitting in the back of a dusty police impound lot, it looked smaller, sadder. It was covered in a fine layer of dust and fingerprint powder. Through the window, I could still see her cheap pastel pillows thrown on the bench. The officer handed me the keys. My keys. I stepped inside. It smelled stale, like her perfume and spilled champagne. I didn't feel anger. I just felt a profound sense of pity for her. To have been given all this, and to have seen nothing but a prop. I walked over to the maple desk. The pink marble contact paper she had stuck on was already peeling up at the edges, a pathetic symbol of her shortcut-laden philosophy on life. I found a corner and pulled. It came off with a cheap tearing sound, revealing the warm, perfect grain of the wood underneath. I ran my hand over the smooth, oiled surface. It felt like I was helping it breathe again. It felt like the healing had begun. It's been 2 months. The dust has settled both literally and figuratively. The Airstream is back in my workshop, parked in the spot where it was born again. It's clean now. The cheap pillows are gone, the glittery contact paper is a bad memory. It smells of cedar and lemon oil again. It smells like mine. The legal proceedings are moving at a snail's pace, but the outcome is certain. Her life is a mess of court dates, lawyer fees, and the inescapable shame of her own viral downfall. My life is quiet. And in that quiet, I've had a lot of time to think. Yesterday, I was doing a final inspection on the trailer before starting a new project. I was checking the floorboards, making sure everything was still solid after its adventure in the evidence lot. I ran my hand over the oak beam, the one with the carving. E+C forever. What Chloe never understood is that the carving wasn't just a symbol of our past. I had intended for it to be the key to our future. I stood up and walked to the small kitchenette. I opened the cabinet beneath the copper sink. To anyone else, it just looked like a simple cabinet, but I had built it with a secret. I pressed a small, unmarked spot on the inside wall. It wasn't a button. It was a magnetic latch, perfectly flush, completely invisible. With a soft click, a false panel at the back of the cabinet popped open, revealing a small, velvet-lined compartment, and inside, sitting in the center, was a small black ring box. The plan had been simple. So simple it hurts to think about now. Our first big trip. I was going to drive us up the coast to Big Sur. We'd park the Airstream on a cliff overlooking the ocean. I'd cook her dinner on the stove I installed using the countertop I built. We'd watch the sunset through the panoramic windows I polished. And later that night, under the soft glow of the interior lights, I would have pulled up the floor panel. I would have shown her the carving on the beam, the secret message of forever hidden in the foundation. Then I would have opened this box. I took it out of the compartment. The box was smooth in my hand. I opened it. The ring was simple. A single clear diamond on a thin platinum band. Not a gaudy rock for showing off on Instagram. It was quiet, elegant, and timeless. Something I thought was for her. Something I thought represented us. A future built on a foundation of something real. She didn't just steal a trailer. She stole the future I was secretly painstakingly building for us. She was so busy trying to manifest a fake life that she never even noticed the real one that was waiting for her, hidden just beneath the surface. I looked at the ring, this tiny, perfect circle that was supposed to mean forever. A forever that was built on a foundation of lies. I didn't throw it. I didn't get angry. That felt too dramatic, too much like something she would do. It deserved more respect than that. Or maybe the dream it represented deserved more respect. I just closed the box. The soft click echoed in the quiet workshop. Then I placed it on a high shelf in the back of my office behind some old blueprints for a rocking chair I made years ago. A relic of a life that was never meant to be mine. I walked back to the Airstream and stood in the doorway looking at my work. Chloe spent her life trying to build an image. She collected followers, hashtags, and props for a story she wanted the world to believe. I spend my life building things. Things with weight, with texture, with integrity. Things that are honest. And here's the difference. When you build an image, a single harsh dose of reality can shatter it into a million pieces. But when you build something real, it lasts. She was right about one thing, I guess. You have to claim what you deserve. She thought she deserved a shortcut, an aesthetic, a prop for her show. I think I deserve peace. I think I deserve honesty. I think I deserve a foundation that's real. And that's something you can't manifest. You have to build it.